piece of AI-generated art won first place at the Colorado State Fair. An AI song made it onto Spotify playlists. A novel written entirely by AI got literary agent attention. Advertising agencies are generating entire campaigns with image models. Game studios are using AI to produce thousands of assets in the time it used to take one artist a week. Some people call this a revolution. Artists call it theft. Labels call it a threat. Writers are worried about their livelihoods. And everyone is asking the same question. If AI can generate art, music, and writing, what happens to human creativity? This is a big question, and I want to give it the serious, nuanced treatment it deserves. Let's go. Before we debate the cultural and economic implications, let's be clear about the technology, what these models actually are, and what they actually do. Generative AI models for creative work are trained on enormous datasets of human-created content. Image models like Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion were trained on hundreds of millions to billions of images scraped from the internet. Music generation models were trained on vast libraries of audio. Writing models were trained on essentially all of available text. During training, the model learns the statistical patterns, the features, the styles, the structures that characterize what it sees. An image model learns what makes a face look like a face, what visual patterns characterize impressionist painting, what the relationship is between words and images. A music model learns chord progressions, rhythmic patterns, the sonic textures of different instruments. When you prompt the model, you're giving it a starting condition, and it generates output that is statistically consistent with what it learned during training. Patterns that feel stylistically coherent, that match the described subject, that combine elements from its training in novel ways. This is importantly different from random generation. These systems produce outputs that feel intentional, stylistically coherent, and often aesthetically compelling, because they've internalized a huge amount of human aesthetic judgment through their training data. What they don't have: intention, lived experience, something to say. A perspective born from being in the world. Whether that matters aesthetically is genuinely one of the most interesting questions about these systems. The legal and ethical battlefield around generative AI for creative work centers on one key question. Is it okay to train AI models on copyrighted work without compensation or consent? The AI companies say yes, that training a model on publicly available data is transformative use, not copying, and falls within fair use doctrine. The model isn't storing copies of the training images. It's learning patterns from them, the same way a human artist learns from studying others' work. Artists, photographers, writers, and musicians largely say no, that their work is being used to build commercial products without permission, credit, or compensation, and that this deprives them of income while flooding their markets with AI-generated competition that was trained on their labor. Both sides have some merit. The legal question is genuinely unsettled. Multiple lawsuits are working their way through courts. The New York Times versus OpenAI, class action suits from artists, Getty Images versus Stability AI. The outcomes will shape this landscape significantly, but it will take years to fully resolve. The ethical question, separate from the legal one, is harder. Even if training on public data is legally permissible, there's a reasonable argument that building billion-dollar companies on the unconsented labor of millions of creators without sharing the value generated is ethically questionable. The counter-argument is that this is how all cultural production works. Artists learn from and build on what came before. This debate is live, real, and unresolved. Anyone who tells you it's simple is oversimplifying. Let's be honest about the economic impact. It's real, and it's not evenly distributed. Stock photography and illustration have been hit hard already. The market for generic stock images, product mock-ups, website illustrations, social media graphics has been disrupted significantly. If you can generate exactly the image you need in 30 seconds for 10 cents, why pay $50 to license a stock photo? Mid-range commercial illustrators and stock photographers have seen genuine income drops. Concept art and game assets, another significant impact. Game studios and entertainment companies are using AI to generate early concept art, mood boards, and production assets faster and cheaper than hiring teams of artists. Some studios have laid off artists and replaced workflows with AI. Writing in certain categories, SEO content farms, basic copywriting, product descriptions, are almost entirely automated now. If your writing work was creating generic, formulaic content at volume, AI has probably already replaced a significant portion of that market. Music composition for licensing, background music, stock audio, functional music for video games and apps, similarly disrupted by AI music generation tools. What's notably not well disrupted yet, high-end creative work where the artist's unique voice, vision, and personal expression are the actual product. The work of distinctive, celebrated visual artists, authors, musicians, whose personal perspective is what people are paying for. This requires genuine creative vision, not just technical competence, and AI's statistical generation doesn't replicate genuine originality. The creative professionals who are thriving right now are largely the ones who figured out how to integrate AI into their workflow as a tool rather than fighting it as a competitor. For visual artists, AI tools dramatically accelerate concept generation, variation exploration, and reference gathering. An illustrator might use Midjourney to rapidly explore a dozen visual directions for a project, then use their own skills to develop and refine the most promising direction into finished work. The AI becomes a brainstorming collaborator, not a replacement. For writers, AI can handle research synthesis, first draft generation for structured content, outline development, and editing passes. The skilled writer's job shifts toward direction, judgment, refinement, and the genuine creative thinking that elevates work from competent to compelling. For musicians, AI tools can generate melodic ideas, chord progressions, arrangement variations, and production textures that musicians then curate, combine, and refine. Music production has always been partly about knowing what to include and what to leave out. AI generates more material to choose from. For filmmakers and video creators, AI is compressing pre-production, concept art, storyboarding, mood boards, and opening up post-production possibilities, effects, editing assistance, color grading. The common thread: AI handles high-volume, lower-judgment work faster. Humans focus on the higher-order creative decisions, the unique perspective, the judgment about what's actually good. There's a deeper question here that I find genuinely interesting. Does AI-generated creative work have value? Is it real art? Art's value has always been somewhat mysterious. We care about authenticity. We care about intention. We want to know there's a human mind behind the work, making choices, expressing something real about being alive. A photograph of a sunset has different value than a random color gradient, even if they're visually identical, because one was seen and chosen by a person. AI-generated work exists in an interesting space. It's not made up. It's drawn from patterns across millions of human creations, so it contains distilled human aesthetic judgment. But there's no suffering, no joy, no longing, no perspective behind it. It doesn't have something to say. Does that matter? For functional creative work, book covers, background music, website illustrations, maybe not much. For work whose value is its authentic expression of human experience, maybe quite a lot. The market seems to be sorting this out in real time. People pay premiums for artists whose distinctive voice they love. They use AI tools for functional, generic creative needs. The middle, competent but anonymous creative work is under the most pressure. Every major creative technology has been met with fear about what it would do to human creativity. Photography was going to kill painting. Recorded music was going to kill live performance. Digital tools were going to replace illustrators. Each time, the fear was partially right and partially wrong. Some things changed. Some things were lost. New things emerged. AI is a bigger shift than any of these, and the disruption is faster. Some creative professions will shrink significantly. New creative professions will emerge: AI directors, prompt artists, AI music curators, human-AI collaboration specialists. The economics of creative work will look different. But creativity as a fundamental human drive, the desire to make things, to express experience, to communicate through beauty, that's not going away. What's changing is the toolset and the economics, not the human impulse at the core. The most interesting creative work of the next decade will probably come from people who deeply understand both human creative intent and AI capabilities, and who use them together in ways we haven't seen yet. AI and creativity is one of the most contentious, emotional, and genuinely complex intersections of the technology wave we're living through. There's no simple answer about whether it's good or bad. It's both, depending on where you're sitting and what you value. What I'd encourage is, engage with it seriously. Try the tools, think critically about the copyright and compensation questions, and watch what's happening at the frontier of human-AI creative collaboration, because some genuinely extraordinary work is beginning to emerge there. Like and subscribe for weekly coverage of AI's real-world impact. Comment below with your take. Is AI creative work real art? I want to hear your perspective. See you next week.